Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, Gardening with Wendy in Zone 5B. My name is Janelle, and I'm here to help take the intimidation out of gardening. Today is Sunday of 4th of July weekend. I hope you all had a really great 4th of July. Today's video is going to be kind of like a little garden tour update to show you how things are progressing here in Northeast Wisconsin. So let's go. Right here, we're looking at one of the raised beds here in the front of the house, which is designated for onions. And then I do have a random little pepper there. Don't panic, there's nothing wrong with this onion. This onion was starting to sprout in my basement, so I stuck it in the ground in early June to see what I could get out of it. I will be pulling this later on this week to use. I'm going to freeze dry some burrito kind of stuff, and that's the onion that I'm going to use. Now, Ailsa Craig is an onion that gets to be really, really big, they say. And that's why I wanted to try them. However, they're not the greatest storage onion. So if I get decent onions out of this variety, these will definitely be the ones that I'll be eating first, just because I don't want them to spoil. And right here is the other raised bed of the Ailsa Craig onions. The little purple flower there right in the middle of that is a malva or a mallow. It's a perennial, it reseeds itself, and that's why it's there. I thought I got them all last year. Here's another pepper. I believe these are just like random green peppers, if I remember right. Right here, these 5 bags here, these are red kidney beans. And I bought these beans at the store, just like in the food section. And I put in 2 beans per bag. And I have 7 plants, 1 bag, and you can see it right here. That one had seed that was just a quitter. It just never sprouted. Underneath this one right here, that's my second planting of parsnips, and they did not sprout again. And I was using last year's seed, so maybe parsnips are something that you have to buy fresh seed for each year. If you know much about parsnips and growing them, please let me know in the comments. Last year I grew them pretty successfully in a raised bed, but I had fresh seed, so maybe that's it. Under this one here, those are my sad beets. This is also a second planting of beets. I think there's a total of 3 in there. I just don't have good luck planting beets either, but I still have enough pickled beets from last year that I canned. So if these don't make it, that's not the worst thing. I still have some. And they are under garbage cans, just because the critters don't leave fluffy dirt alone, and then they dig up everything. Right here, we are looking at our 3 grow bags of peppers. There's a poblano, Ozark Giant, and a jalapeno. The Ozark Giant actually has 2 peppers on it. You can see one right here and one right here. And then the poblanos are just starting to get them. I don't know if you can see that. Right here is my strawberry patch. I took the netting off yesterday. I got just under 9 pounds of strawberries this year, which is, quite a bit less than last year. However, we had kind of like a crummy spring. It was very dry, and then we got real hot and humid. So the strawberries, in my opinion, they just were kind of stunted. I had quite a few that were just kind of like rotting on the plants just because of the humidity, but I still got more than enough that I need. I made strawberry jam, strawberry rhubarb jam. I froze some. I gave like a pound to my uncle. So I feel that was a success. And I took the netting off yesterday, and I also noticed that the strawberries are starting to grow runners. And this is how actually I grow more strawberry plants. I get these in the ground, I just kind of anchor them in, and then I let them root, and then I cut the running part off at the base of the plant, and then I have a new strawberry plant that started. When I started with these strawberries in this bed was planted full, and then this bed was just half. I think I bought, I don't remember, I think you get like 2 dozen plants with the original order. I ordered the plants, bare root, and I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't quite enough to fill up both beds. But this part here, this is all propagated strawberries that I propagated here myself. These are the honey oyster strawberries. They have a life expectancy of about 3 years. When I say life expectancy, I mean that after 3 years of production, they should be torn out and replaced. And that's just because the plant gets tired and can't produce a lot, or it doesn't produce large berries. So with that, I will just kind of like propagate a bunch of strawberries, and then I'll just replant the area. They're also the type of a strawberry that the first year when they're flowering, you want to pick off the flowers because the plant is too small, too young, too immature to bear fruit. So you have to kind of pick off the flower buds, which is so hard for me to do, but I know it's only for the good of the plant. Down here is some cabbage. This has been riddled by bugs, and I've been spraying it with neem oil, and I think I'm finally starting to get control over it. Well, now it's starting to rain again. Here's another cabbage that had some bug damage. I plant dill with my cabbage because dill likes to ward off the cabbage moths. But this year my dill did not grow very fast, which is weird because dill is something you can just grow no problem. I mean, it's growing here and it's growing here and here and here and everywhere else that I don't really need it. Now, I did try transplanting some of this larger dill into the cabbage bags, but the dill died. So that's just something that doesn't transplant well once it gets to be that size. Here's another cabbage. Like I said, I was spraying them with neem oil, and I think I finally got control over the bug problem here. And this one's a lot nicer. And then this here is a huckleberry. And these little berries here, they're going to turn dark purple. And when they get dark purple and soft, it's time to harvest them. I have 2 other huckleberries in the front flower garden, so we'll see what I get. This bed here has onions, peppers, and tomatoes. Oh, I think I hear it thundering in the background, so I might not be out here very long. Onions, peppers, and tomatoes, and I also have calendula. Now, calendula is kind of like a sacrificial flower. Let's say if I get aphids that want to visit my garden. Aphids like tomatoes, but they like calendula even more. So I plant calendula in each of my beds to kind of draw aphids onto the calendula plant versus onto the tomato. And so far it's worked all the time. Now I also harvest these flowers. These flowers have a medicinal property for healing your skin, so I make like a salve out of it. It's ideal to harvest the flowers on sunny days before lunch, and that's when their resin is at its best. Resin, it's kind of like a sticky substance within the flower itself. The onions here, these are either Utah yellow or Spanish white. I didn't label them, and now I'm, not quite sure which they are. There was like a random red onion that grew too, and I grew these from seed, so there's no way for me to tell by seed what's going to grow. But I think that's another red one. I'll just chop those up and use them in salsa. The tomatoes that I have planted in here, these are super sauce, which is my favorite canning tomato. You can can things with things like beefsteak and early girl and such, but you're just going to be cooking them down a lot longer because they have a lot more liquid than your sauce and paste tomatoes. And then here is a pepper plant. This was given to me by a lady that visited my plant sale. She gave me 2. They're called Carmen, and I guess they're similar to a green pepper, so I'm really excited to see how those turn out. Oh, and the other thing I was going to tell you about onions. The amount of leaves on an onion plant determines how many rings are on the onion. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this little one, 6, 7, 8. So this onion here will have 8 rings on it. So that's going to be a nice one. This area here are my tomatoes that did not sell in the plant sale, and I don't have the heart to throw them away. Look at how healthy they are. I have them in cages, and the cages are bungeed. The cages are bungeed to this fence because this area can be windy, and I was kind of worried that as they grew and got top heavy that they could topple over. So I got them kind of anchored here. And then this is the 4th one. These 3 grow bags have potatoes, and I just saw today, it's starting to rain quite a bit, that this one here has, I just covered it, a potato that was sprouting. I don't know if you can see that right there. So that's a good sign. I planted these late in comparison to my other ones, so it's good to know that they're going to grow. Here's some other cabbages. These did not get hit with the bugs as badly as the other ones. And they're doing good. This one here almost died twice, but now it's starting to get real healthy. Along the garage, I have some medicinal herbs. And if that's something you want me to do a video on, let me know and I can. the herbs are kind of medicinal, and not everybody is into that kind of stuff. But anyway, here we've got carrots, and there's some random dill in here. I never really yank out the volunteer plants. I don't know. It's going to be somewhat useful for me at some point. I do like to snip off these little feathery leaves and dry them. And then I have dill for mainly like seafood. Sometimes I'll put it with a salad just for a spicy little flavor. Down here, this is peas, and so is this. Now, when I put these in here, I think I had 7 or 8 plants in this one, and I had, I believe, 6 in here. And the critters were going in there and digging. So now they've got their little garbage cans. This is just a daisy that's kind of holding a spot there so that they don't get tempted to dig underneath. Right here are 2 grow bags with a sweet potato in each one. These were slips that I started in the house, I believe in February, and they're so slow growing that I think I'm going to start them about a month earlier just for a little bit better success rate. Sweet potatoes store really well, and I really like them in a pan of roast vegetables. So I just showed you that. And then here, this grow bed has peas, tomatoes, and onions. So on this side here, we'll kind of be able to take a look at the tomatoes. These here are San Marzano, so they're not, red yet by any means. Maybe by the end of the month. Nice healthy plants. Last year I planted 8 tomatoes per bed, and I did have blight. And I kind of was thinking, okay, it's probably because they were overcrowded, not a lot of air circulation. Maybe I didn't catch all the leaves that possibly could have touched the ground. So this year I decided no more than 6 in a raised bed. Right here, this is a little dahlia that I grew from seed, marigold, which is a pest deterrent. That's a calendula. That's a calendula. This is a calendula, and here's a variegated nasturtium that's actually grew from last year, but it's not that very big, so I don't think it's going to really flower. Oh, maybe it will by the end of the growing season here. This one here is getting ready to bud out. Going around the edge here, I've got a bunch of peas, and they're started just to get their pods on here now, very, very small. I mean, I could pick them if I wanted to do a stir fry with them, but I do like peas, and I'm kind of counting on my second crop of peas for pea pods for stir fries. We have fava beans too. So I planted fava beans. This is a fava bean here. There's 3 of them on this one. I planted fava beans because they are known to get nitrogen from way deep within the soil and bring it closer to the surface where all the roots of the vegetables are. They are also a really good chop and drop kind of a plant. So when the beans are done growing, I'm not going to haul them away to a compost heap. I'm just going to cut them up in smaller pieces and work them into the soil here. And then here's some more onions. Now, after this last downpour, boy, they really kind of took a beating. And I do have to come back out here and pull the soil away from the balls again, or the bulbs. They need to have soil loose in order to allow the bulb to expand. So right now it's kind of, like covering the bulb here again. So I'm going to actually have to come through here with a pail and scoop out soil. I believe I did that last year too. When I think back on it, so I'm going to just scoop out the soil because there's just no place to go with it in the raised bed. I've got a little sweet pea in here too, just for growing to have like another extra pollinator. And then let's see here, we're going to go on to the next bed. This bed's got peas, potatoes, and tomatoes. And we're going to talk again here about the nasturtium, which is a pest deterrent. Once again, if aphids visit your garden and they have a choice between a tomato and a nasturtium, for some reason, they're going to want to go to the nasturtium. And the nasturtium actually is a fully edible plant. You can, I wouldn't eat the damaged leaves, but you can pick the better leaves for a salad. You can eat the flowers. The flowers produce a little peppercorn, so you can eat the whole plant. It has kind of like a peppery lettuce flavor. I like it. The peas here, they're developing really nice. You can see quite a few pea pods here. And see how little the peas are in that one. And there's, I think, 3 rows of peas here. I've been eating them little by little, just like a handful. Now the tomatoes in this bed, I have a pineapple tomato and a purple Cherokee or Cherokee purple. And I always feel like I need to try something new each year because I could be missing out on something I really, really like. I would never know. So I always encourage people, try something new each year and just see if it's something you want to add to your regular routine. That's kind of how I discovered super sauce tomatoes. A friend of mine had given me some super sauce tomatoes, and I was really impressed at how nicely they cooked down to make spaghetti sauce. You can use, like I said before, any kind of tomato for making your sauces. You just might have to cook it down longer. Down here we've got strawberry spinach, and I still have been eating this spinach. I just kind of pick the larger leaves. This is almost looking like it's getting ready to bolt. I didn't see that yesterday. Oh, bummer. And this here is a type of a Korean broccoli. I got this from a really good friend of mine, and I've never planted it before. I don't know what to expect, but I'm really curious to see how it's going to turn out. Over here are 2 more tomatoes that didn't sell during the plant sale, and I'm really not sorry. This one here is a patio tomato called Geranium Kiss. This is a determined tomato, meaning that it's going to stay short and bushy like this. All these little flowers, once they produce all their tomatoes, then the plant is done. Where this is an indeterminate tomato, meaning that it keeps kind of growing, basically viney. It'll keep producing all the way up until frost. But I just didn't really have a lot of space in the garden, so I just put them in pots, and they're doing really fine here. You can see that it's got some tomatoes there and there, so that's good. Under the 2 garbage cans here are cucumbers that I just planted yesterday. The package said it's got 60 days to maturity, and it was beginning of July, so I'm like, you know what, I've got time. I might get some cucumbers out of some new plants. And then I also started thinking maybe by planting them now, I'm going to beat the cycle of the cucumber beetle. Maybe it's not going to be as ferocious and damaging. I don't know. It's worth trying. I don't want to ever have empty space in my garden unless it's truly close to the end of the season. Here's another cabbage that I didn't have a place for, and I really start to think now that my cabbages do better in raised beds than in bags. So note to self for next year. Over here I've got some fava beans that I think the rain is kind of weighting down and starting to tip over. But I also have these potatoes. There are 3 potatoes here. They're the purple variety that I got from a really good friend of mine. And then I did plant a regular white potato here. Hasn't sprouted yet, but we'll see. At least I'll get purple potatoes out of it all. Then down here I've got kind of like a second crop of peas. I had planted 3, 6, 9, I think I planted 10 peas here, and you can see the critters have damaged all of them except 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's one back there. So that's kind of disappointing. Another calendula. Here's some other peas. These were a little bit larger when I planted them out here, so that might have something to do with the success comparing to those. That's just a regular spearmint plant, which I'll pick leaves and dry. Back here, this is another cucumber. This raised bed is mainly just cabbage, and then there's some peas on the other side too. Um, like I was saying before too, the cabbage that was in the raised bed seems to be doing much, much better, and a lot better, like healthy wise. It's not so much bug damage. I was using neem oil. Oh, right there. That's my problem. That butterfly. But we've just been getting rain now for the last 2 days, so all the neem oil I'm sure is washed off. So I'll have to come back out here and spray. It's still gray in the sky, so I'm not going to waste the money on the neem oil right now because I'm just afraid that it's going to probably wash off yet at some point today. I've got some calendula in here. Those are just volunteers that grew from last year, seeds. Down here, there's some little soya beans. I'm not sure if I'm going to get anything out of them. This one here, I have a few. The interesting thing about soya beans is this is what they use to make tofu. Down here is my kohlrabi patch. I've been eating these. I had picked one yesterday late. I ate half of it already today. Lots of bug damage again, but they're still doing good. We have a ways to go. I've got China Jade cucumber here, and they get like a real long, curly kind of a cucumber, but they have very small to little to no seeds. So I guess you would almost consider it like a burpless cucumber. This is an artichoke, which I got from a really good friend of mine. Never have grown them before. I think it's a little small for being in July, but maybe all of a sudden it's going to hit like a growth streak. My goal is that by the time the kohlrabi are done, this thing is going to take off and it'll give it even more room. And then here's another China Jade cucumber. These little wispy things here, these are garlic. Now I finished picking all my garlic scapes as of yesterday. I don't think I've seen any more out here. That's always kind of a bummer because garlic scapes are just so delicious. You can see some of the yellowing here on the leaves, and that's not because they're unhealthy. This is a sign that they're starting to die back. And when the plant is about 2/3 yellow, that's when I pull my garlic, cure it, and store it. Got some little raspberries. Not enough to make anything with, but it's going to be a chef's treat. Down here too, there's some rhubarb. I'm going to have to pick some of that again pretty soon. It's just so that it keeps the plant healthy and keeps it producing. You never want to pick more than 1/3 of the plant, otherwise it kind of stunts it. Along this entire wall, I've got medicinal herbs, and like I said, if you want me to do a video on that, what I've planted and the purpose of it being planted, just let me know. You can see I've been collecting rainwater. This is just since yesterday, and I've already bottled up some jugs and hauled them into the garage, but we just had kind of a, I don't want to say a downpour, but I started making the video and then it started to rain really heavy. So I got to come out here with my wagon full of empty jugs and empty these out. All right, so we're going to go back over here. Here's another nasturtium, cabbage, and then here's some peas. These, I think the cabbage just shadowed them out so much that they just never got to develop into much. But I do see, where did I just see it? I've got a couple peas here that I can harvest. So I'll come back out with a little dish and pick a few. These little rack things were in the bottom of crates that I had bought secondhand. I think they were $2 up in Door County. And my neighbor actually had them, and I saw them. I'm like, wow, that's actually really handy. They're tall. It's more for protecting the plants in spring, and then I store some of my gardening things in the winter in them in the garage. But for $2, the crates are just wonderful. But I didn't have a purpose for any of these. And then all of a sudden I had an aha moment. I'm like, I can run some, what do you call them, stakes or dowels through the very edges here and make little fences. You can adjust it and bring it up a little bit. And here's probably a better look at the potatoes. They're just going bonkers. I think you can prune potatoes, and I might have to do that because it really looks like this last rain really weighted them down. And these will be ready to harvest probably near the end of August, I'm thinking. And here we are, we're kind of back to the beginning. So these raised beds are in the shape of a letter E. So if you kind of see like 1, 2, 3 little 4x4 ones, and I did that on purpose so that I could walk in between and get to everything real easily. So this is my newest raised bed, and I do have 2 more like this to go over here where the garlic is. These are 4 foot by 2 feet and 1 foot deep. And the whole goal was to grow sweet potatoes in here. Now, I did plant 3 sweet potatoes. You can see that we have 2. One is kind of being protected yet because the third one that was here kept getting dug up and then chewed on. And after a couple of times, eventually the little shoots were chewed off. So I had to get rid of that sweet potato. So it's kind of like an empty hole there, but that'll just give room for this plant here to, produce some tubers. These were started in the house in the wintertime. And then here is one more cabbage with pretty much no bug damage. It's doing really, really well. Uh, anyway, so that's this little raised bed. I hope you found this video informative. This is just kind of the rate of things that grow here in Northeast Wisconsin. Some people might have things that are a little bit ahead or a little bit behind mine, but pretty soon we'll be harvesting full speed and there's going to be a lot of activity in the kitchen. I hope you found this video informative. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, tell all your friends. We'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.